Sorry.
Chief, let them know that there's extra chairs in the back.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Going to get started. We have some people just coming in still. There are some extra chairs in the back, and there's a few up here as well. First and foremost, I would like to welcome you and thank you for coming out. My purpose of this tonight is to hear the concerns of the community so that we can better address the issues that you want to bring to us so that we can work together to resolve these things. Before we get started, I'd just like to recognize a few people and thank them for their support to not only allow us to have this tonight, but to allow the police department to function and for us to give the service that we do to the community. Mayor DeStefano, Council President Miguel Rodriguez, we have Alderman Johnson, Alderman Massey, Alderman Green, we have Maria Ingracia, my police commission members, Commissioner Vignola, Commissioner Mills. We have our county legislator, Joel Sierra. City officials, I hope I didn't see. Oh, Alderman Kleiner and Alderman Francois. Sorry about that. I'd also like to introduce you to some of my staff. Before we do that, just real quick. My name is Johnny Wanchu. The police chief, recently appointed this past August, 19 years of service here in Middletown. So I've rose through the ranks here, got to work in a whole bunch of different environments. And I'm super happy to serve as your police chief, and I have a lot of energy, a lot of ideas, and dedicated to building the community rapport and relations with the police department to make it a better place and improve the quality of life. With me here tonight, I have my two administrative lieutenants. I have Lieutenant Jeff Dolan. He oversees my patrol division, or our patrol division, and Lieutenant Frank Graziano. He oversees the service of the department, the detectives, narcotics, and whatnot. Also with us in the back, we have Officer Patrick Cunningham. He's one of our canine officers. Officer Christopher Bailey and Officer Richard Regino. They are my neighborhood enhancement officers. They're the ones that kind of fill the holes when I have some type of a complaint or issue. They kind of get tasked with going out and trying to give immediate attention to that situation. Also in the audience tonight, I have Lieutenant Sam Khalil. So basically, the forum of tonight, I want it to be more of a question-answer type situation. I'll go over just a little bit of an overview of the department, what types of crimes, what types of situations we've handled throughout 2017, and then I want to hear from you. I want to address the concerns and issues that you have, but I ask you to do that in a respectful way. Respect your neighbors, please. If someone comes up and says something that you're not in tune with, that's fine. I'll address that. We'll address that up here. Please don't argue back and forth with them. That's for us to handle. What I do ask is if someone does have a question or concern, please come up, use the microphone, and we'll have a casual conversation back and forth. So just a quick overview of the police department. 2017, the members of the Middletown Police Department responded to a total of 43,653 calls for service. We're a 5 square mile city. With a population of just under 30,000 people, so I believe it averages to about 120 calls per day for a service. Not all those calls are crime, and I'll point that out to you in a second. Total arrests in 2017 were 3,412 arrests, which is about 8% of the volume of calls. That means that other about 90-some% is service calls. It could be checking an alarm, helping with a lost child, unlocking a car, those types of service things that we do on a daily basis. Crime is measured in categories. There's part 1 crime is your more violent crime, your robberies, your rapes, homicides, and whatnot. And your part 2 is kind of your overall ordinary crime, petty larcenies, criminal mischiefs, and whatnot. In 2017, there was only 757 part 1 crimes in Middletown, and there's 3,566 Part 2 crimes. So out of those 43,653 calls for service that we handled, only 4,323 were actually crime related. So it shows that there's not a huge issue with crime here in Middletown. And we've shown a decrease in crime over the last 7 years, with this past year having a 4% decrease in Part 1 crime from 2016 and a 2% decrease in Part 2 crime from 2016. Also, the men and women of the Middletown Police Department in 2017 issued 5,257 traffic tickets, which is a 20% increase from 2016, and they made a total of 495 quality of life arrests. The quality of life arrests are the city code type violations. That's your drinking in public, your urination in public, your littering, those types of things, the noise complaints that really affect the quality of life for each and every one of us. And they also issued 4,342 parking tickets. So just some numbers just to throw it out there, just so you could see the volume of work that the men and women of the Middletown Police Department do on a daily basis, on a yearly basis. And it also highlights the fact that there's not a huge issue with crime in Middletown. We do have our pockets of crime, we do have our issues with crime, but we do a lot to curb that, to try to resolve it, move it on. I do have to credit the men and women of the Middletown Police Department for their efforts. I continue to task them with more and more, give them more responsibility, more assignments, and they continue to impress me. They work hard day in and day out. As I said when I stood at the podium back in August of this past year, that my goal, my intentions are to build the community relations. Again, that's why I welcome you here tonight. I welcome your comments, your concerns, good, bad, indifferent, whatever it may be. But I want to take those comments and concerns and build upon them so that we can resolve some issues. One of my philosophies and a true belief of mine, I can't resolve all the problems of this city by myself, nor can the men and women of this police department. It's something we have to do as a community. So I'll ask you multiple times, to take an active role in this community, as we do. We're out there every day. Yes, we get paid, but this is the community we all either live in, work in, enjoy our time in. So if we all take that active role and do our due diligence, we can make this a better community, and we can improve the quality of life here in this community. The city was recently the recipient of the DIR money for the $10 million downtown revitalization program. And we have a vital role in that, I believe, as a police department. Without our efforts to reduce crime and improve quality of life issues, I don't think you're going to see the government willing to dump money into this community, people willing to invest in infrastructure and buying businesses and homes. So just to correlate our relationship to all of the investment in Middletown, it does go hand in hand, and it's a very vital and important role. Before we get started with the question and answer type stuff, I do want to bring to attention of anybody that would like to participate with us, our Nixle program. We just recently implemented a Nixle program, which is, it's a software program that we could push out information to the community. You could actually respond back to us with any type of concerns, issues it may be. And we could use this on multiple levels. It's not just a police tool, it's a tool for the community as a whole. So we could use it to show that there's a broken water pipe. We could use it to show that there's sign up for a Little League or a city event, that there's, God forbid, a sex offender that moved into the community. Whatever it may be, we could push that out. It's a free program, and I encourage you and spread the word to sign up for it. To do so on your phone, if you could text the word Middletown with a capital M to the number of 888-777, it'll automatically link you into the Nixle program, and it'll allow you to receive updates on any city information. One last thing before we get going into the question and answer is we are scheduled to have a police exam this coming September 15th. Alderman Massey is also the head of our Civil Service Commission, and he's been grateful enough to order us a new test. Our police exam is only given every 4 years. It's a great opportunity for people. We are trying to encourage people from our community to come out and take the test so that we could have our residents from the community here and be part of our organization. Thank you to the commission and to the mayor. They just recently hired 2 additional police officers that will be starting the beginning of April. Both of them are Middletown graduates. One still lives here in the community, and one lives right outside of the community. So our efforts are to bring our community into our organization. And we'll be working with the local civic organizations and schools, colleges to try to promote and recruit for this exam. So please, if you know anybody that is interested in it, September 15th, we'll be putting additional information out in the coming months on the requirements. So if anybody does have a question, I'm open to questions. Silence.
I have to speak on the mic because you're recording it.
Yes, everybody, the event this evening, the meeting this evening is being recorded. So that's why we would like to use the microphones.
Once again, I'm Paul Johnson, representing the 3rd Ward along with Kate. We've spoken briefly about the homeless population in Middletown, particularly in the 3rd Ward. Could you share some of your thoughts on all the issues that surround that particular population of our community? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We do have some issues and some concerns with the homeless population. We absolutely do. We've partnered with some of our local organizations, specifically Honor, which is located on the Psych Center grounds. They are the homeless shelter and a resource to get the homeless that are in need of services back into housing off the street, give them either a warm place in their shelter for the night and eventually get them out into the community in their own housing. So what we've done is we've done it on multiple occasions throughout the year. We actually go out into the community. I've done it myself multiple times. We walk around to the places that we know that the homeless are living and staying, and we try to encourage them. We'll give them a ride. We offer them rides. We'll offer them whatever services. So we partnered with the Veterans Affairs as well, because some of the homeless people are veterans, so we realize that there's a whole other set of resources that are available to them. But the outreach that we do, going out, walking the railroad tracks, checking abandoned buildings, old storage facilities, and that type of stuff to find them, to offer them the services, and actually provide them with a ride. We're somewhat successful with it. We're not 100%, obviously, but a lot of people are reluctant to go and receive these services because of the rules and requirements that are attached to them. They have curfews. They don't allow drinking of alcohol, smoking, drug usage. So once the person gets in there and realizes that there are those rules, they don't want to stay there. So it's a revolving door. It's a continued issue for us. And we continue to offer them the services. We've been successful more recently with some people that it's taken 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get through to them, where they finally said enough is enough, and they've actually taken the services, and we have them in housing. One was Chris. We saw him downtown all the time. He sat in Festival Square. We tried day in and day out. In fact, Chris Bailey was the successor in that situation. Was there the day that they actually got to put him in a car and take him up to Honor, and he's now living, I believe, in the 1st Ward. He's got his own house. He still comes out. He looks good. He's being a productive member of the community at this point. So with the homeless, if you see them, for the most part, they're not out to commit crimes. They may commit a crime of opportunity if it's there in front of them. But most of them just want to be on their own and do their own thing. They have their own agendas as why they want to be homeless. Some are forced, some choose to. There's actually a local gentleman that actually owns a house here in Middletown. He rents the house out, and then he lives in the streets. So I can't answer as to why some of the people do it. But the department is very well versed. Honor has given us cards in the past that we could give out to the homeless population, so that if they don't want to take our requests or our services at the time, they have an avenue to get help later on at whatever time they choose.
I don't have a question. I'm born and raised in Middletown, and I'm very proud of the city of Middletown. I'm especially proud of all the opportunities the police department is offering the youth as their junior academy. My grandson went to the very first junior academy, and he is looking forward to going to the other one. So I just appreciate all your efforts in reaching out into the community, especially the youth.
Thank you. And I have to recognize Chris Brink. She's the head of Recs and Parks Department, and her and her staff, they bring a lot of those programs to the youth. This past year, we kind of jumped on board with the youth as well, trying to reach out to them, knowing that they are our future, trying to build those rapport, trying to break down the barriers between the police and the youth. Sometimes we get painted with a broad brush of that we're bad because of whatever parents or whomever in the community tells the youth. So we've been pretty successful. We've partnered with Parks and Recs, the fire department. Joel Sierra is also a Middletown fireman. He wears many hats here in the community. His wife is also the head of the senior center. So his family is here. They have a vested interest in the community as well. So what we've done this year I think it's been pretty successful. The feedback that I've received with partnering with these other organizations is we've done what we called, and we termed them jump out barbecues. They were unannounced. We went out into the community. We hit the city parks unannounced various days of the week. We set up a barbecue. We had music. Parks and Recs brought games and activities, and we spent a couple hours out there. The fire department started coming. They would mist the air with water to let the kids run under on those hot days, and it was super successful, and we saw it grow and grow and grow. The mayor, our aldermen, some of the commissioners came out and enjoyed it, saw the interaction. And I'll tell you, the first couple, they were a little tough for some of my guys to kind of break the barriers and realize, like, hey, we got to communicate and interact with these people. But by the end, we had a list of people that wanted to do it. They were out there playing kickball, throwing a football around, hula hooping, playing badminton, just talking. There's arts and crafts. There's so many different things. We continue to do that. And once again, I thank the city leaders for allowing us to do that and giving us the finances to do those things. They go a long, long way. And it's great to see the looks and the expressions on the kids' face when they see it's the police officers there looking to play and interact with them. It's not what they've been taught a lot of times in this community. So we're trying to bridge that gap and build upon those relationships. Anybody else? You guys got to have some question for me. Mr. Lucarelli.
Anthony Lucarelli, Mid-Hudson News. Sadly, I have to bring up the Parkland shooting in Florida. Is the police department prepared, God forbid, to respond to a situation like that in Middletown?
Yes, I feel confident that we could. God forbid it happens here or anywhere else. I don't ever want to see that happen again. Everybody that comes out of the Orange County Police Academy now is trained in active shooter training. Our department is going through active shooter training. We're actually in the process of redoing the training to refresh it, to bring everybody back up to speed. And additionally, I've been working closely with the school. I've met with some of the school board. I've met with the superintendents. I've met with the principals to put plans in place to work with them to allow the officers to walk into the school on a daily basis to approach children and students during the lunch times in the hallways, obviously being escorted by the security so that they can maintain the security of the school. And I have a meeting this coming Tuesday with the Orange County Director of Training that we're going to start planning a larger scale training drill for one of our local schools to just reassure that not only my staff is prepared, but we can work with the school to ensure that they are prepared as well.
Okay, and would you say that with every one of these instances that the police department learns a little something going forward?
I would say with every incident, not just a tragic incident like that, but every incident, we should learn and build upon and move forward from them. Debriefings on any type of incident are super important so that we can have that feedback, that positive feedback, that negative feedback, the good, the bad, so we can build and try to do better each and every time.
Okay, one last question. Yesterday, the House passed a bill for $50 million for the School Safety Act. It sounds like a lot of money, but there's 100,000 schools in the United States. It comes out to $500 per school. Are you going for any federal money, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more than that?
Right now, I'm not aware of any federal monies that are out there, any grants that are out there right now. I predict that coming here in the near future, I think you're going to see avenues open up for money. Just like after 9/11, a lot of money the federal government opened up for tactical operations and equipment and SWAT teams. I feel like right now, and I encourage our elected officials to push for that type of funding to open that up to allow more security options in the school, whatever they may be. SROs, I'm a firm believer in the SROs for a multitude of reasons. I don't think it's the 100%, solution. I think there's many things that have to go into it, but I think the relationships that are fostered there, the information, the ability to have someone from your local police department in the school, I think it is instrumental.
Fantastic, thank you.
Silence still.
Good afternoon. I'm Roberta Brown. I have a question, right? What program we have for at-risk young men, especially in school, that instead of kicking them out of school, that the police department could adopt them, put them under your wings, have some type of program where you could monitor them, and tutor them, be a mentor and help them move on to being a more positive individual.
Thank you for your question. As far as the program within the school, I cannot control that. I am open to the idea, and in fact, I've been since January. I have a young man from the high school. Thank you to Ms. Pizzula. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So I've actually taken that role on myself, and it's something that I have discussed with the school, is trying to expand upon that and actually offering that opportunity to some of my other officers. Currently, right now, I have an 18-year-old high school student that has had some troubles that I am mentoring. It's been rewarding on my end, on his end, and I'd like to say that it's rewarding on the whole organization for them to see that me as their leader is giving a kid from our community that has gone through some troubled times an option, a second chance at life, giving them some guidance. And I can tell you my staff that has interacted with him has been nothing but positive, and it's been a great turnaround to see this young man change and his positive outlook, how he's changed his look on life as a whole. He's doing better in school. He's surrounding himself with good people, good ideas. He's having great communication with people, and you're seeing a whole different person than we saw when I first was introduced to him. But to go back to that, I'm definitely open to that. I'm open to expanding that within my ranks as well. I've had the conversation with a high school principal about that, and if they have someone that they feel would be a good fit for us, I welcome it.
Hi, Susan Depew, Prospect Street. Many people know me as the litter lady. And so I have a couple of questions and wondered how you could help us to improve the city's quality of life by reducing the litter. Today I was reading on some things online, and I found that 93% of the homeowners say a littered neighborhood will reduce their quality of life and their ability to sell their home by 40%. So as one of the leaders of the Pride Committee in Middletown, I wondered if you could help us with people who litter and how you could essentially use some of the laws that are on the books in the city of Middletown to increase the quality of life and reduce the litter in Middletown. Thank you.
Thank you. As I previously mentioned about the quality of life arrests that we made, there's 495 in 2017. I'd like to see that number increase, because to me that is the type of crime or offense that does affect the quality of life for everybody here. One of those offenses in that category is littering. It's a city code that's been adopted by your common council here many years ago that we can enforce. And it entails us taking the person into custody, and they end up getting fined to try to instill a sanction that they don't want to commit that type of offense again. I encourage every one of my officers, the men and women of this department, to take a real role in those quality of life offenses so that we can improve that. I could probably tell you exactly. It's not a huge number, but this past year, 33 of those 495 quality of life arrests were specifically for littering, and that's something we could focus on and putting a better effort to resolve that. You have my word that I will pass that along. You're welcome, and I'll make sure we have some people out there on cleanup day as well. Mr. Kleiner.
Hi, Chief. I want to follow up on a couple things and do a little advertising here. April 21st is our citywide Pride Cleanup Day, and I hope everyone will come out for that. Also, March 21st, and that's at Festival Square from 9 to 12, so come on out and help us clean up the city. It's the one time a year we all get together and do it. And as Sue says, I hope we get in the spirit of wanting to keep Middletown clean all year. And that's a campaign we really should have. Also, on March 24th, there will be a March for Life in Middletown. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's at 10 in the morning, but I'm not sure exactly. But it's in coordination with the nationwide march from the Parkland, Florida shooting. And these kids from that high school have been amazing. One of the things I heard them say yesterday was when kids act like leaders and leaders act like kids, it's time for a change. So that's one of their messages. I thought it was a good one. So I hope people will come out and support that. I also looked up, it's Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and I encourage you to Google Marjorie Stoneman Douglas and see why the school was named after her. She was an amazing person. She wrote a book on environmental conservation in the Everglades that was kind of like Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. And she lived to 108, and they said at the funeral, death was the only thing that was going to shut her up. So, she seemed remarkable, and it was nice because I really wasn't familiar with her, so it was really nice to hear that. I want to thank you and the department. I think your leadership has been tremendous in terms of partnering with us in Middletown, and that's how we look at you. And from city government, that you've been amazing partners in combating homelessness and doing our outreach and in helping us with the warming station and in getting everyone involved on our emergency housing. And I think it's really made a big difference, and I just thank you for doing that, and I want everyone to realize that the police are there as our partners and there to help us. There's a section of our community that's not always comfortable going to the police. To that end and other ends, we're looking at establishing a Middletown ID, and it will be a Middletown residency ID just for residents and citizens of Middletown. And I have a communications committee meeting that's April 3rd before our common council meeting, our first one in April. It's Tuesday, April 3rd at 7 p.m. where we'll be discussing moving the idea forward. We'll be talking about why we're doing it and what we want to do, and we hope we can get everyone involved in that kind of Middletown pride. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I figured I'd finish up on what Jerry started on the March for Our Lives. Thank you so much, you and the mayor, for your support. We really have it organized well. We're going to be meeting at SUNY Orange in Lot 1 at 9 a.m., and then we're going to just talk, whatever, until 10 o'clock, and then we're going to walk down to the skateboard park and have a rally. So just in case anybody wanted to know, we're meeting at SUNY Orange, Lot 1. Thank you very much.
You'll have our support during that as well.
Thank you. Thank
We'll
you
be
very much.
providing police escorts throughout the whole event.
And
to
then the
help.
rally will be about an hour. We have students speaking and parents, so it should be very interesting. And there's 764 worldwide marches on that day. So Middletown's one of them.
Thank you. To go back to the community aspect of it, when I ask you to be part of the solution, oftentimes I hear I didn't want to call the police, I don't want to bother the police, I didn't know I should call the police. We are here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's our job. That's what you pay us for. Please call us. I'd rather you call us, if nothing else, it makes a response. It has a response of a police car to that area. It may not always be as fast as you would like because we have to prioritize our calls and the volume of calls, but we need you to call us, report things, notify us. Just recently, this past week, I was made aware of a situation where someone's a snow shovel was actually stolen from someone's house. They didn't call us right away. They actually went through the social media aspect of it, and that's their right. But for us to really take action on that, we need to know about that. And I communicated that back and forth. The person did come in, make a report, and coincidentally, not that much later, Officer Cunningham found the person and was able to successfully arrest that person. I can't guarantee those results every single time, but it just goes to show the fact of if you report to us, give us the opportunity to go out there and find the person and make that difference. Without that buy-in from you to actually call us, it's just something that we can't do. And I just hate to hear it afterwards that I didn't call or I should have called or I wish I called. Please call us. And if you ever get a response that you don't think is appropriate, by all means, call me directly. I have no problem. Come and see me. There's always a supervisor that's working, so if you're not happy with the results or the response that you receive from the patrol officer, there's a supervisor that you could air your concerns, your thoughts, your ideas to. And again, if that doesn't work, I'm always available. I have no problem sitting down with each and every one of you at any time. But again, it takes all of us. 343-3151 is our main number. It's answered 24 hours a day, so please, I encourage you to call. I encourage you to take action and help make this a better place, improve the quality of life.
Chief, they can also use Nixle to tip anonymously for people who don't want to maybe call us or make contact with us. All you have to do is type in tip Middletown to that same 888-777, and we will get notified of that electronically. It doesn't record your name or information. We can communicate back with you, but that information is confidential. We don't know who you are, and you can give us that information, and then we can act on it. So that's another tool that we have with the Nixle system that's very beneficial to us.
Thanks.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. Chief, thank you for all your hard work in the last few months. I had a chance to go to the pop-up barbecues. They were great. All your hard work in the community and your community outreach has been wonderful. I wanted to thank you and your officers for all the hard work you did at Far Hills, the Beers Drive area, and the mayor's office also was very assisted, getting the dry ice, and I saw your officers out there actually knocking on doors and interacting with all those residents out there, so thank you very much. I had a few things. Nowadays, one of the most asked questions I get is being a father, and I get approached from a lot of other parents, and they want to know how to talk to their children if there's an event in their school, and what advice do they give them. And I know Middletown's been on the forefront with the SROs, and I know your officers are constantly in the schools, but I know they can't reach every student. And I know parents want to speak to their children of if there's an incident in their school and how can they give them advice. Do you have a program, or do you have somewhere that you can point these parents? Or I was going to ask the mayor if there's something we can set up as a training for these parents, just to give their children advice in case there was a situation in their school. Obviously, they would call the authorities and such, but is there do you have a course, or do you have a pamphlet or something to teach parents on what to tell their children, like, hey, if something happened, if there was a shooting in your school, or some any situation, I mean, what would you tell their younger kids to do? Obviously, get under a desk, or
Yes, a couple things there. Yes, the current trend is they call it run, hide, fight. Encourage your child to run, hide, fight, whatever they can do to get out of that situation. As far as training, I think the parent having a conversation at home with them is foremost the most important thing, whether it's about school safety, about drug use, whatever it may be. We do have to bring that back, that element of parents sitting down, having a conversation with their children, and talking things out, explaining to them, being involved in their life, knowing what's going on. As far as a training, I guess on a larger scale, I'm in contact already. I've already reached out to them. The Sheriff's Department offers, they call it CRAZE. It's a civilian response to active shooter. They just hosted it recently locally. They do offer it every so often. Some of my staff actually went to it, and they were very impressed with it. I've actually reached out to the undersheriff to discuss with him about bringing it here. They're very open to it. We just got to set up a time and a place to host it. And it's a great training from what I'm told. I didn't personally attend it, but like I said, my officers that actually went to it, one of them actually called his wife and said, you need to get over here and hear this. And it goes not only just for a parent, it could be the parent, it could be the teacher, it could be the student. And it's just a great conversation to have to let people know exactly what you're asking. What should I do in this situation? And it doesn't just pertain to schools. It pertains to being in the mall, being anywhere where something bad has the potential of happening. So I will work with the mayor and the council to try to get that venue here somewhere in the city so that we could offer it to our residents. I spoke with the Undersheriff Weed just this week in regards to that. He's open to doing it as early as late April. So it's just a matter of finding a venue and doing that so we can bring
I
it.
actually have a meeting scheduled with the sheriff's office, and I heard about that tomorrow. I'm meeting with him about that. And I actually commend you also, because I know your staff has trained up at Toro College and at the schools. I've constantly seen them with the K-9 unit, so thank you so much for the outreach that you've been doing. It's been great.
I appreciate it. Another thing with that, we have somebody that I do send out as a member of my staff that will go out and whether it's to talk with a class, a business, or whatever it may be here in the community to help them do a security assessment of their facility or discuss it with their students of what they should or should not do in a crisis situation. So I do extend that to whoever would like to have that conversation. I can send somebody out to you to have that.
Hi, Bob Dietrich from Chestnut Street. I was wondering what your plans are for the future in terms of community foot patrols, and if you have any evidence in terms of either empirical or anecdotal how successful you have been with those.
Yes, as I go back, community relations, huge for me. I've come to learn over the last several years, back to the basics of policing, the walking posts, the community interaction. That's where we really build the relationships. That's where we address the quality of life issues and make it a better community. As soon as the nice weather comes upon us, you will see the officers back out there walking again. To me, it's not really about them walking. I could really care less if they walk. I want them out of their cars engaging somebody in the community, whether it's sitting down in a local eatery and having a drink or coffee or lunch with them, or standing outside on the curb, leaning on the hood of their car, having a conversation. So it's really not so much about walking and wearing the soles off of their shoes. It's more about that interaction with the community, build those relationships, hear the concerns, and hopefully address that. So to answer your question, yes, you will see them. I'm a firm believer in them. I've actually got out and walked myself this past in February when we had that beautiful warm day. I took my two partners and we walked around the downtown, and it's enjoyable. Back in the fall, we would walk out to the skate park, walk around the downtown. It's really nice to have the people come up and actually speak with us. We get to hear their concerns. We get to put a name to a face and just build relationships. I think that's what policing is about. Again, going back to the basics, that's what it was years and years ago, and bringing it back, it seems to be working. As far as feedback or data, to me, the most important feedback and data is you. I don't want to know really numbers-wise with that, but when the community's saying, I enjoy this and I like that, I love to see the officer, that to me says a lot. We've had a lot of great stories, or officers having a little basketball game with one of the kids as they're walking through the park, throwing a ball. Just this past winter, there's a medical call, and the officers actually shoveled the driveway of the resident to allow the ambulance to get in. We've had it in the past where one of the officers on a walking post saw an elderly resident that was struggling with some yard work and took 2 minutes out of his time and went over and helped her with that. They are the things that I'm looking for them to continue, that type of community relations. So again, it's not about the walking, but that's how I get them out of the car.
I'm Michael Albert. I live on Linden Avenue. Are you still have intentions of cleaning up the drug problem? Because I live in the second ward in downtown Middletown, as far as people harassing other people and prostitutes going over the place and causing problems and this and that and everything else, and people panhandling. Is that still going to be an issue that's going to continue to always be addressed to make the streets in the city safer for people to walk, especially at nighttime?
Absolutely, that is always going to be an issue until it ends. I'll never give up on that. The men and women of this department will never give up on that. I think last year we made some huge strides in the Linden Avenue area, and I can't take credit for that on the police department side solely. We incorporated and joined together with our code enforcement to shut down some of those homes that were over there that were kind of the magnets for some of that vagrant activity. So we will continue to do things like that and get out there and address those concerns. I hope you living in Linden Avenue a couple years ago when we really put the press on Linden Avenue, I hope you saw the difference that it made.
Yes, I have.
I myself was out there walking, and I had residents come out and say, thank you. This is the first time my child's been able to ride their bike out here in a long time.
Well, I thank you for at least doing that.
And I hope that you would thank
Appreciate
my
that.
officers as well, because they're the ones that are out there doing it day in and day out.
Mhm.
But we will be out there, and if you have an issue, if you see some type of unwanted activity, no matter how small it is, please call us. If nothing else, you're going to get a response of a police car, and hopefully that curbs that bad behavior.
Yes, I do agree with that, and I will continue to still do that, because that'll make big difference in keeping our community safer.
Absolutely, I agree.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. Mhm.
Evening, Chief.
Evening,
David
Dave.
Morse. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there are a lot more of us than there are in your department. That a fair statement?
Absolutely.
So what can we do to help you do your job?
As I'm saying here tonight, you take an active role in the community. You see something, you say something. You call us whenever there is something. Address the issues that you see, whether it's crime related, whether it's house related, whatever it may be. A lot of times we have no problem calling because there's a speeding car, but we don't want to call because we saw Johnny from next door do something wrong. But maybe you need to call us for that as well, so we can interact and maybe prevent something bad from happening. But to really build upon this relationship and the city, we have to work together. We need to all do it. As you said, there's not that many of us. There's 68 sworn Middletown police officers to cover the city 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. There's almost 30,000 residents here. So if we all come together, we could achieve greater success together.
Okay, so let's take that to the next level. As you know, I'm hugely involved in Kiwanis, and I see some fellow Kiwanians in the audience here. How could organizations like Kiwanis, the Rotary, the Lions, how can we help you fulfill some needs?
One, thank you for all the civic duties that you guys do. But any of those organizations that are out there, Kiwanis, Lions Club, whatever they may be, the more they could do in the community to interact and engage the community and make them feel and be part of some type of activity to give them that sense of pride, I think are huge. The cleanup day, I think, is huge, to bring the community together, to take an active role in the community and make it a cleaner and better place. Continue to do those types of events.
Perhaps there's some partnering opportunities?
Absolutely. I am very open to partnering.
Okay.
Anything, as you heard, I spoke about Honor. I partnered with them several years ago, and that started with me sitting in a meeting. I had no idea what they were. I heard what they were about, and I was able to form a good bonded relationship with them that has blossomed into us having a great rapport with them.
Thank you for your time, Chief.
Thank you, Dave. Any other questions? I don't know if it's a microphone that nobody wants to come up and speak at, or?
Well, I'll keep it going, Chief. But a lot of opportunity for you to have us all together. There's a perception in some parts of our city that the only place we worry about speeding is on Highland Avenue. Could you talk a little about your overall approach to get a handle on speeding in the city? Thank you.
Absolutely. Good point. We definitely get a lot of complaints about speeding and traffic issues, especially as the weather gets warmer. People start opening their windows. They start hearing the speeding cars, screeching tires, and that type of stuff. As I indicated earlier, last year there was 5,257 traffic tickets issued, which was a 20% increase from the previous year. So just that alone shows the efforts in the increased traffic enforcement. One of the things that we did purchase this past year with the support of the council was a speed trailer. And we went a little bit above and beyond on the speed trailer, because it's not just the average speed trailer that tells you, you're going 42 miles an hour, slow down. It's actually counting cars for us. It tells us how many cars are going by that piece of equipment. It tells us the median speed. It tells us the time of day where there's most traffic. It tells us the time of day that the highest speeds go by. So a tool like that gives me that type of information, I'm able to put back out to my patrol force to say these are the times and places that we need to focus on the enforcement, instead of just randomly sending somebody out into the community on a traffic complaint. And I don't want to say wasting time, because it's actually a good resource to have a police officer in your area or on a street, but we could better utilize our time by focusing on those speed times. And as far as Highland Avenue, yes, we receive a lot of complaints about Highland Avenue. It is a busy street. It's a wide street. A lot of people speed on it, but we have complaints on a lot of streets. We will continue to do our due diligence to enforce the speed. The good part also with our report from the speed trailer, it gives me a percentage of how many people are actually driving within the speed limit, which is huge. And I would like to get that number closer to that 90-95%. I don't want to say it's ever going to be perfect, but the good thing is it's not that far off from where we really perceive it to be. Oftentimes, a resident perceives the issue to be a lot worse than it actually is. So when I get that data back, it is nice for me to have that conversation with the person and say, I understand your concerns, and we'll still continue to address them, but this is really what we pulled from that location over the last day, 2 days, a week, and that type of stuff. So it's been a great resource for us to help combat some of that, and I'll continue to deploy that. If you have a need in your neighborhood, please reach out to us, and we'll move it around as needed.
Hi, I'm Andy Mills. I live a block that way and I work a block that way. I have a question and a comment. My question is, I'm excited about the new bike path. What can you tell me about the security that will be enhanced or changed with the bike?
The Heritage Trail, I assume?
Yeah.
The Heritage Trail, the time frame I think has been pushed back a little bit.
Summer construction should
Okay. There's a three-phase project. Phase 1 is from Genung Street into East Main Street. Phase 2 is from East Main to West Main through the downtown, and Phase 3 is from West Main out through Davidge Park. And if I'm not mistaken, it's done on a yearly basis, Phase 1. Goshen into East Main, to bring it in. As far as security, I've already done an overview of the security, some of the things that I would like to see on the trail as far as lighting, open views of certain things, some call boxes or some type of communication so people could feel safe. We'll also be patrolling the trail as well. This past fall, I re-implemented our bicycle patrol. I had Officer Schoenleber out through the fall till the weather got too cold, and I actually have 3 officers scheduled to attend bicycle school the end of April into May. 2 of them are in the back of the room here today, so I plan on having people out on bicycles. Middletown Coalition Cares was great with us last year. They actually purchased us 2 brand new bikes for the community and for the officers to use, so I will continue to have programs such as that so that as you're out on the trail, that you feel safe, that there's no concerns. One of the other things that I saw doing some research is to get civic organizations or community groups to maybe sponsor, whether it's a bench or a garden or some type of something on the trail where it brings activity to that, where they could take ownership of it and maintain it, and just to bring that sense of community to it as well.
Thank you. Now, for my comment, I work as a psychologist and nurse for the mentally ill over here at Access. I just want to thank you and all the officers. We have great responses from your team. You're there in no time. Unfortunately, because of social and political reasons, we've been calling your officers more in the last couple of years than previous years, but we don't need to get into that. But anyway, it's been a real pleasure working with your people. I can't speak officially for the agency. I'm not the CEO, but every staff member that I have talked to has been very happy with the response. We just had something today, and it was handled very professionally, and the people are compassionate to the mentally ill and the mentally retarded that we do have in our community. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Speaking about that, we respond to a lot of mental health calls. Over the last 10 years, I think policing in general has started to wear many hats. We're not just a law enforcement. We're not just out making arrests and giving tickets. So we've become parents to some people. We become counselors. We become mental health counselors as well. So the police in general have taken on so many additional roles and responsibilities in addition to just that law enforcement aspect of it. It just goes to show the great police department that you have here in Middletown. The men and women of this department are outstanding. Like I said earlier, I continue to task them with more and more stuff, as does society, and they continue to impress me day in and day out. Told you 43,000 calls, that's a lot for them to handle, but they continue to do it, and they come back with a smile on their face. Remember, we come here voluntarily. I mean, we get paid, but we voluntarily become police officers. We raise our hand and take that oath voluntarily. It's almost like a calling, and that's why they do this day in and day out. So, hats off to the men and women of the department.
I know you said this wouldn't be the last of these forums. Have you thought about, because I think this has been a really good for the community, and have you thought about when you'll be doing another one?
I have not put a time or a date on it yet, but I do. I don't want this to be the last. I want it to be the first of many. I want to be able to come back out into the community and hear the concerns and the issues. And I want you to feel free, even in between meetings. If you can't see me at a meeting, please call. Make an appointment. Come see me. I'm open to hearing ideas, thoughts. I'm not saying my way is the right way. I want to hear from you, the community, what needs to be done, where we need to redirect our resources and our focus. So please, whether it's another meeting such as this, which I promise we'll have again, and I hope we can continue to build attendance, or just stopping by, or at one of the events. I try to go to most of the main events throughout the city. But please come up to me, air your concerns, let me know. In fact, on April 10th, partnered with the Downtown Business Improvement District, and I'm going to be actually speaking to the downtown businesses. Similar format to hear what needs to be addressed with them as far as policing. So I want to do it on multiple levels. There's also an idea from the Recs and Parks Department to do a similar forum for the teenage portion of our community. To hear from the kids what's important, where do we need to go there, what can we address with them as well. So I'm open to ideas. I'm open to building those rapports and those relationships on all different levels. So I promise you that we'll be back here at some point. Yes.
Just having a suggestion. My name is Roosevelt Roden.
If you just come on up to the mic for me.
Hold that? No, I'm good. I think my voice carries. Yeah, good evening. Chief, my name's Roosevelt Roden. That idea might even start from your primary through senior high schools. You know, I mean, you got your future residents and voters,
I absolutely agree with you. They are our future. Thank you. Oh, Mr. Massey has a list.
No, actually I don't. I really don't. But I am going to use your platform because you did bring up the idea that we're going to be giving a test on September 15th. The other night at the council meeting, I made mention, and we've been getting an awful lot of calls. What I'm going to do is give this to our reporter, and hopefully these are the minimum qualifications. I'm not going to read through them all, but many people have been calling and saying that I would like to apply. What are the minimum qualifications? This would certainly help if you would put this in the paper, or some of it, to let them know. I know the chief and I are going to go out to a number of organizations to try to get more people involved, and we're hoping that if you're capable of taking the exam, if you meet the minimum qualifications, please do. It's a wonderful job. We welcome everyone, and we'll do whatever we can to bring as many people into that exam process. And Chief, as an elected official, I just want to tell you that I'm very proud to be an elected official and having you and your department and all of your officers. We are very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm a little biased to our police department, obviously, but in all reality, it is a great police department. To me, it is the premier police department in the Orange County, if not farther. Some things that go to show that we are an accredited agency, which it's governed by the Department of Criminal Justice in Albany. It sets the professional standards for policing. We have achieved it, and we've maintained it. And it's not that easy. It's not just, you fill out some paperwork and get it done. They actually audit us on a yearly basis. Every 5 years, they send a team of auditors in to ensure that we're following the best practices and that we're doing it. They could speak to anybody from me to the most junior person to make sure that we are aware of our responsibilities as far as policy and procedure and our responsibilities to the community. So for us to continue to achieve that, there's only about 24 to 25% of departments in New York State that achieve it and maintain it. So it is definitely a feather in the hat of the Middletown Police Department. Additionally, just to go on to say to continue on how I feel as being one of the better police departments, I attend monthly police chiefs meetings with the majority of his Orange County police chiefs, but it goes a little bit farther. And just this past meeting, a chief from another department, he's been in that department 30 plus years, he pulls me aside, he says, "Hey, when are you giving your next test?" I said, "Oh, in fact, we're giving it this September." He looks around at the other chiefs, he's like, "My son wants to be a cop," and I told him the only place to be a cop was in Middletown. So I think that really shows where we stand in the law enforcement community. And again, that's nothing that I have done. That's the men and women that are out there on the front lines every day that do that work every day. They're the ones that are responsible for that reputation. Any last questions? That's okay. Politician?
Yeah. I learned from the best. Chief, I try to emphasize, I was born and raised here in the city of Middletown. I have a passion for Middletown, but I emphasize to everyone who calls me and speaks negatively about Middletown, but, and I've been guilty of it too, but people constantly tell me that there's a lag time, or if there's suspected drug dealing at a house or such, maybe you can give some light on what's happening, and I believe you're still using impact. And I constantly tell these people, well, are you calling the police? Are you calling the police? Well, I called them a year ago, and if maybe you can give some light on it and how long an investigation may take, and how important, because you told us a bunch of numbers, but you're doing more. They're to you, they're more than just numbers, and how you guys are studying, tracking crime, and what areas need attention more than others, and if you can kind of tell us, why does it take so long? I know you had a recent raid and you guys did a wonderful time, and it's some of my neighbors are telling me, I called them last year. Well, it's important that you call every time, and if you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Absolutely, thank you. Again, it goes back to receiving the information from the community. As it was said, we are only a small number of this community. You as the community are much larger. You get to see and be in places that we're not. So we, as far as investigations, crime, whether it's narcotics or anything, you calling us and giving us a tidbit of information may be that missing piece of a puzzle. So we've all done puzzles at some point in our life, and you're always looking for that last piece. So I encourage you to call for that purpose alone, is we may be missing that last piece, whether it's a car that's involved, a person that's involved, or whatnot. But as far as investigation, specifically into narcotics, we may be able to respond right then and there and catch somebody coming, going, a hand-to-hand transaction, someone in possession, someone utilizing. So again, please call. We could work on that. But the longer-term investigations that go into our drug dealers, our distributors, they do take time. I wish I could tell you it's quicker, but there's so much that goes into it. One, we have to worry about the safety of the officers that are actually conducting those investigations, because a lot of times there's violence that goes along with drug dealing for protection or whatnot. But they take a lot of time for us to make control buys, build information, find informants, get undercover police officers into it. So then that's all got to be presented to a grand jury. We have to get search warrants. There's a lot of checks and balances that goes into it. But I encourage you to keep calling. When you hear someone that I've called a year ago, that's not helping the cause. That's not doing your part in the community. Call us every single time. Last year I worked with a lady from Brick Pond. She called and called and called. And she would get upset that we weren't getting there quick enough. And as I said, we have to prioritize calls sometimes. Or maybe we're sending a car, but they're coming from North Street to the other side of town. So it does take a little bit of time. Drug dealers, drug users, they're not hanging around for you to come and catch them. They want in and out quick. So it just takes that right timing, and the continued calling, one day we'll get it. The lady at Brick Pond, Pat, thank you for coming tonight, because Officer Cunningham, I believe, is the one that got that guy leaving Brick Pond last year as well. He was coming in after work, getting whatever he was doing, and on his way out, we would miss him. Maybe sometimes we were passing him on the way there, just not having enough information to know who it was. So the more you could provide us and the more you call us, the better chances of us resolving that issue. I can't encourage you enough to communicate with us. Call us 100 times. If you get a negative feedback from one of my dispatchers, let me know. We will correct that. At the end of the day, we're human. We have good days, bad days. So you might catch somebody at a bad day. Maybe they just got done dealing with a stressful situation. But it doesn't mean they have the right to not give you 100% of their time. I try to encourage the staff. You call, it may be a minor issue to us, but it could be the biggest situation in your life at that time. So I want my officers to deal with it as it is that biggest situation in their day. Give you the time and the respect that you deserve. So again, just going back to call, it does take a lot of time. There's multiple buys that need to go into a location, multiple control buys or undercover buys that need to go into a narcotics location before we could obtain enough information to actually do a search warrant or to get them indicted. And they don't have a specific time. I'm sorry, I can't. Some could be a month, some could be 2 years. It just depends on what type of organization they're running at that location. But I can tell you we have a very, very active narcotics unit. It's a full-time narcotics unit. We also have one of our detectives assigned to the Hudson Valley Safe Streets Task Force, which is a gang, drug, task force that brings in a tremendous amount of resources to us. He's been with that organization about 10 years now. He's still a member of the police department, but he works with them on a daily basis. And when we get him, we get their resources as well, their money, their people. And if we have a problem, I could call them and bring them in. In addition to that, we have such a great working relationship with our surrounding agencies. At a moment's notice, I could call any of our surrounding agencies and have them here to help support us. In the summer, when we do our Safe Summer initiatives and our directed patrols, I'll bring in the state police, the sheriffs, and you'll see our officers partnered with a state trooper or sheriff's department member going around doing proactive police work to improve the quality of life here.
Yep, good evening again. And following up with what you just said, at times when people call the police officer and they show up and they leave, they need to come right back again, because they just wait for the car to come and go and they're right back in business again. And you need an unmarked vehicle, not the ones you have that smell like police car even though they're undercover. No, seriously, they know it. They see it from way down the block and they know. You need an old beat up car when it's time like that, just ride up.
A taxi cab, right?
Yes, you'll get them. But they smell the police car from 10 blocks away. You need another really unmarked vehicle. Those, everybody knows they're a cop car. You know, they just look at it, they know.
I hear what you're saying, and with the older style cars, when we use the Crown Vics, there's a distinct sound to them that you could hear them coming.
They know the lights of the vehicle.
The lights.
So you need a real old beat-up car, one of those that go pop, 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 and you would get them.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. There's a good point on the marked cars as well. It's the deterrence, the visual deterrence of having a marked police car in that area, and we try to say that it deters crime. There's no way to actually quantify that and say how many crimes have been deterred by a marked police car, but statistically and in police work, that's a given that the marked police car does kind of deter some activity, just the presence of it. But that's another tool to have in our belt, yes. Anybody else? Mayor, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, this is your night to speak about.
Very good.
Just again, 888-777. Text that number.
Is that the lotto number?
Yeah. Please, reach out to everybody, let everybody know. And thank you for coming.
Alderman Klein or anything to add? Alderman Massey? Johnson?
No, sir.
Green? Jean-Francois?
Doing great.
Anything? Mr. Sierra, anything?
I'll keep talking.
That's all right. Got time. We got time.
Ram Kassoon snuck in as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did see her. Alderman Ram Kassoon. We're just, right there. Third ward.
We had a neighborhood watch meeting 2 nights ago, and so we talked with Officer Baylor and Officer Regino, and their work has also been really impactful to the community, so appreciate them as well.
They are great. They are, all of the staff is great, but they are the ones that get a lot of recognition because when we do have an issue, when I receive some type of a complaint, they're normally the first people that I send to resolve it. They do a lot of the graffiti investigations. They're really great in following up and finding that. That's another thing. If you see graffiti, don't assume it's already been reported. Please call us. Let us know about it so that we can make a report, we can investigate it, we can make notification to DPW to have it cleaned up and removed so it doesn't plague the area and encourage people to do it as well. But really the whole thing comes back to the more you engage yourself with us, the better we could resolve a lot of the issues in this community. My guys in the back, anybody want to add anything? No?
I also want to thank Officer Cunningham for helping out some people in the 3rd Ward with a situation that occurred as well. Thank you on their behalf.
Hi, John.
How are you?
Good. My name is Rebecca Ross. I live on Mountain Avenue. Doing some community work with some parents that lost their child due to gun violence. My son, who was a gang member, did prison time, is now a productive person in the community. He lives out in Pine Bush, but he mentors children now to stop gang violence. He's willing to talk to any child in need that is going the wrong way, your police department, before your watch, actually saved my son's life. My son could have died in these streets. He was toting guns. I had the cops come to my house. Dave Green came to my house. Thank you, Dave Green. I knew a lot of the police members. They came to my house. They said, Rebecca, I'm sorry. We have to go to his room. We have word that he is affiliated with the Blood Gang members. They came to my house. I never invaded my son's space. I should have. I was one of those naive parents. Again, I want to say that everybody saved my son's life. I wrote Judge DeRosa a letter a couple years back before my son got released, and I told him thank you. You know, he kept getting slaps on the wrist. Oh, probation, probation. Finally, I said to his probation officer, you know what? Tough love does not hurt. Lock him up. It may save his life, and it did. So if your cops need a helping hand with gang activity, my son will be the first one to talk to a kid. We had to stop the violence rally. He spoke for an hour and a half. He had kids come to him and say, hey, I didn't know. And he saved a couple kids from making that wrong decision. So, again, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that, offering that service. And we've sat down and talked in the past.
We sure
and,
have.
I welcome anything like that, and I give him a lot of credit for, you know, making that switch and really doing it. I give you credit for having the tough love. A lot of times,
Tough love don't hurt.
a lot of times parents are afraid to do that, and I
Nope.
kind of mentioned about that earlier. We do have to take an active role, not even just out here in the community, but at home as well. If we see something going astray at home, we have to address that. We have to hold our children accountable. We have to deal with the situation. We can't be embarrassed or afraid to deal with it. We really have to. I think a lot of the issues start right there, and we really have to come back to the basics
Your
there
police
as well.
officers helped a lot, let me tell you. Like I said, I was a naive parent. I never went in my kids' rooms, never invaded their space, but guess what? That's rented space to them. A lot of parents need to know that. That is not that child's room. That is your room. You pay the bills. I have a brother-in-law. I have a brother-in-law that's the chief of police. I have another brother-in-law that's an FBI agent. They both told me, you know what, you had to do what you had to do. I'll be the first one to tell you, I would turn my son in if he was to do anything.
That's a tough decision.
Hey,
I agree.
it worked.
It's my house. I take my children's cell phone and look at them. It's my phone.
Yep.
I'm not trying to be in their business, but I'm trying to keep them safe.
Hey, if I knew what I know now, I probably would have put my foot in his tail when he was 16. But guess what? He had to do prison time to realize, hey, and he did it twice. Not once, twice. He did a total of 10 years. His adolescence was gone. He's 30 years old now. He's productive, he's got a family, and he's married.
You got to be happy with that.
I sure am.
Talking about being involved in what's going on at home, I'll get in trouble if I don't point this person out, but my wife's in the back of the room. Not Pat. Sorry, Pat. You didn't get this one. But together, my wife and I attended a training session last year, this past fall. It's called Hidden Mischief, and it's focused on parents becoming aware of what's going on in your children's life. I've actually just recently met with the organizers of this program, and I'm also trying to get that here in Middletown as well. And basically, it's focused on a teenage child, whether it's a girl or boy, whatever it may be. They come in and they do a lecture with a PowerPoint presentation, and they actually set up a mock bedroom, a typical teenager bedroom, as they call it. And as part of the program, you actually get broken up into groups of 4 and 5 people, and you get sent into the bedroom with a piece of paper, and you're supposed to find all the clues that you think are derogatory or something that should be alarming to you. I was like, this is going to be no joke. I'm a police officer, 20 years. I walk in. I made my list, sit down. My wife goes in a different group, and afterwards we start going through it. I was like, holy cow. I didn't realize a tremendous amount of stuff that I just would have just overlooked. But it was really eye-opening to me, to my wife, and to the other people that were there that night. So I think it's a great venue to bring here to the city for parents to see. Like I said, I learned a lot from it, and I was very surprised. I just met with them, and we're working on some dates to get it here at some venue here.
This can't be good.
I'll
Oh,
speak
no.
since you brought me up. I just wanted to say congratulations. You're doing a great job. And to the community, I want to say I've seen so many of you again and again, and I think it's phenomenal. I think you all are just great activists for different causes, and we can do great things together. And the mayor is very, very supportive, and that's phenomenal too, Miguel. Everyone has been great, and I think you'll have great success. I think you'll see a lot of really positive, changes and differences, and it's starting from the top down. So I think it's a great thing. And speaking of kids, I have to get ours. So.
Just to piggyback off of that, the vision of the city, the mayor's had a vision, the council, his team has worked together to bring this vision of the city together. I think this year we're going to start seeing a lot of that. We saw the skate park last year, we're seeing Woolworths, we're seeing a lot of the infrastructure and buildings going on. So I same thing. I can't say enough about where we are going. It's a great time to be part of this community. And as I said earlier, we have a vital role in helping to achieve those goals and get to that vision and making this the place that we all want to raise our families, bring our families, enjoy our free time, spend our money, and do whatever it is that we do here.
I have like a follow-up to what Rebecca had said and some of the things that you had said recently. I'm of the generation, I grew up in a fairly larger city than this, where kids were free-roaming kids. You come home from school, you don't see them again until dinner time. Your parents have to come out and call you. What I'm seeing now, pretty much with this generation of parents, is a great fear, even in Middletown, which is a small city, in terms of you can't go out, come home from school and you can't go out. I don't see many kids like on my block playing in the street, kids playing soccer or wiffle ball or what have you. Can you speak to the parents a little bit of how safe is it for their kids to be outside in Middletown when they come home from school?
I personally believe it's safe, but I think there's a couple things that you're talking about there with the kids not coming outside. Is it because it's not safe outside, or is it because they're doing other activities? Technology is really...
I feel it's, and I hear from people that it's not safe for my kids to go outside. Yeah, well, no, I know, but just the same with people that I talk to.
I think it's there's a couple issues there. I think one, technology is kind of taking some of that playtime away, where kids are engaged and engulfed in electronics and not really going outside and playing as they once used to. But as it was said, the skate park is a great example of people coming outside and playing. I personally believe that it is safe to let your children out. Obviously, you don't want them out no matter what neighborhood you're in at the wee hours of the night and in the morning under the cover of darkness. But in your neighborhood, in your yard, in and around that area, I don't see why there's an issue of letting them out. The majority of the crime that we have here is very target specific. It's not random types of crime where people are going around and randomly assaulting people or randomly robbing people. So I don't understand why people would have that perception. The Parks and Recs department, there's a tremendous amount of people signed up to do these outside activities. So I wish someone would come and say, this is where, when, how, and why, so we could address that. But a blanketed statement of, I hear that they're not safe. I don't know how to respond to that.
I think it's just an.
So I'm going to chip in.
I think it's an.
Do you know that 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Kiplinger report. Now I want to respond to your initial question. Then you can respond. And I apologize for jumping in, but the question is a horrible question. It's a horrible question, a horrible basis for the question. A few years ago, Middletown was voted the 8th best city in the country to raise a family. In the country by Kiplinger magazine. That was based on the quality of our schools, our crime rates, and what a city offers families and children. This community, Chris is still here, I hope. The amount of recreation programs that we offer, our park systems, the $500,000 investment in the skate park. I go to the same neighborhoods that you go, and I see kids, what I have to tell kids is don't play in the street. That's one thing, but playing in the yards, I don't see it. Society is different than when you and I grew up, where you went out at 7 o'clock in the morning and came home at 5 o'clock in the evening. But that's not Middletown. That's society as a whole. But this community has such a huge investment in our youth with our recreation center, our gymnasium, karate programs. Chris will go on and on and on. So I don't want anyone to watch this or leave this room with the impression, there's it all right there, that our taxpayers on an annual basis fund opportunities for kids in this community by far much more than any community that I'm aware of. I go to conferences all over the state, and they are so impressed with the amount of investment that we make in our recreation and parks programs and in our youth, that and also extending that into the police with the jump up barbecues and the fire department. All of these things, our whole community is geared towards kids. So to imply that there is some negative perception out there that someone is, and maybe there are a few people that have that impression, but that is not a community impression. People are moving into this community. Between Westchester and Albany, I believe we were the only city to have a growth in population. It grew by almost 12% in the last census data. In 2017, we had 1,100 housing starts or completions in 1 year. That doesn't mean people are afraid to come here. That means people want to come here. People go to the high school. They see the beauty, not only the physical beauty of the facilities, but the opportunities for kids in these schools. So I could not let that go unanswered, so I apologize, Chief, for stepping in, and congratulations, you did a wonderful job.
Okay. So let me answer. My reason for asking it was to do exactly what the mayor did and what you did, is to affirm. I'm a firm believer that Middletown is very safe. That's why I said it, is that people shouldn't be afraid to have their kids go out. It's a very safe city. And, overall, in our society, is safe. And the thing is that parents shouldn't be afraid to have their children go out and play. That was the point. But I'm glad that... That's true. Right. So I'm glad you said that. We both agree. We're not disagreeing. That's my point. Is I want to see that. People have written books about it that, hey, it's as safe as it was when we were growing up. Okay? Like, you shouldn't be afraid. And especially with the police department we have, with the recreation department we have, we give kids great opportunities. So they should be out there. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I think we're good. Well, thank you all for coming, and like I said, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me.